Hey guys, it's WaifuGate coming back at you with another deck guide. Today we'll be going over 5-color Niv Mizzet Reborn. Now this guide is a little weird because the deck can be ran in both historic and standard, and I haven't figured out which one is better. I think the one in standard might be slightly better, but there is some merit to the historic version as well. But I've been messing around a lot with both lists. And we've been trying out like Yorian versions, Jagatha versions. I think that's how you pronounce that companion's name. And there's been a lot of interesting takes on it, and I've been enjoying the list quite a bit. So in the video, we'll be going over what the deck's goals are, matchups, and how to sideboard. Those are the three main things that we're going to be going over. There is also an MTGA giveaway code for an individual card reward, so that can be a mythic, rare, or uncommon card. Somewhere in the video, it'll be red text, it'll be highlighted, so it'll be pretty easy to find. And then you've got, there'll be some gameplay as well in this video, so it just covers a lot of things. And if you happen to win the code, feel free to post what you get down below so that people know that someone grabbed the code, and then for two, I keep like a sort of a scoreboard, like a leaderboard for best and worst card pulled. So if you like to get your name up on there for the stream, just throw your card in there. It's just kind of for fun. And so with that being said, let's jump into the list. All right, so we're gonna get into the deck now. So the deck construction's a little weird, and there's a lot of comparison between, like, there's a lot of options between historic and standard for this deck. Now you'll notice here that the only historic cards are Explore, Pulse, and some of the lands. 2, 3 lands. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards in historic. That's pretty okay, right? But if we take a look at like what else we could replace in standard as well, because our land base is pretty okay either way. Now a lot of people will also, so there's a lot of things like little details that we can jump into, but I kind of want to explain how the deck works first. So it pivots and plays its whole deck, like the whole deck idea around this card, Niv Mizzet Reborn. So what this guy does, he comes down and basically gives you 4 to 5 cards, potentially. Basically draws you those cards, and they're not ever lands. You're guaranteed to, well, you're not guaranteed to get anything. You can whiff on lands. It's top 10, it's possible, but it's unlikely. Something I've been considering too is replacing the Kenrith with stuff like Ashiok. This one. Like just win cons that we can also grab off of Niv Mizzet. This is sort of a flex spot right now. I would definitely consider like, a Garruk, an Ashiok, even like just those two would be fine. Just anything else. Garruk is also castable because you can very easily do something like this. That way you have better win cons potentially, and of course, like, you can do this or whatever. And it's just kind of nice. But that's like minor points. They're actually pretty major, but it's fine. I think I would prefer that just so we're getting more win cons and we can accelerate the game going faster. And we don't really have a lot of Golgari or any Dimir cards, really. So idea is to explore and to Uro to ramp, and then play Niv Mizzet on 4 or 5 if we're able to, with the color fixing and stuff that we have for the deck, all of the triomes and such. It helps out a lot. The triomes make this deck way better, and I haven't really explored it since Nexus was banned, etc., like where we were kind of getting comboed out. And I feel like we have a really good disruption plan for stuff like Kethis as well, and Clarions perform very well against goblins. Now that being said, since a lot of these cards, so you play Niv Mizzet, you get your win cons, you play a bunch of stuff. You can use like Tamiyo to -3, get back Assassin's Trophies to blow up multiple copies of Field of the Dead. You've got really good sideboard options for Field of the Dead as well, like Knight blowing up Golos, Unmoored Ego on Field of the Dead, Assassin's Trophy. Like you got sky is the limits on answers too, and Unmoored Ego is super decent against Kethis as well. You can Unmoored Ego the Kethis itself or Mox, so they have trouble like comboing. You've got Grafdiggers, you've got an extra board wipe. The sideboard's pretty decent too, but we'll get into details on that later. But basically the premise is that we play the Niv Mizzet, get like 3 to 5 cards, sometimes 7, whatever it happens to be, and then we just kind of go off from that point with just a lot of card advantage, and we can win with our Planeswalkers. Niv Mizzet itself is a win con, and this guy hits really hard and can gain you life in combination with Clarion, like lifelink, deal 3 damage, clear the board, swing through, deal 6, gain 6. It's insanely hard to keep up with, even as the Goblin list. Like, they have to continuously threaten you with the Prospector for mana. They have to threaten you with Krankos, etc. And you can just Clarion to kind of wipe out all the banners as well. Pretty sure the whole deck, aside from Muxus, gets hit by this card for the most part. So it's just really, really nice. We can also instant speed the Clarion or instant speed Maelstrom Pulse, etc. to shut down engines as well. The deck just has a lot of answers, as well as being proactive with getting more and more and more threats and answers. In this case, it's kind of a weird sense of being reactive is also proactive, because you just make your opponent feel very, very powerless. So getting into the details on card selection, why Explore over Spiral? Because we can grab Spiral with Niv Mizzet, right? And it's instant speed, therefore it must be better. Not necessarily the case. So there are a few things about Growth Spiral, right? Spiral. So a few things about this card. Yes, it's an instant, but you have to play the land as soon as you cast this card. Explore gives you the static effect of being able to play an extra land throughout the whole turn. So if you end up drawing a card because of something else, or you don't know what land you want to play because you might be drawing other cards as well, you're not priced into playing the land right after you play the card. So that's an upside. The other big upside is that this is green-blue, and it's way harder to cast this. You wouldn't imagine. Like, you plug this into MTG on Curve, and you can kind of see it. Like, we can do that right now, all right? So MTG on Curve, right? We pop this open here, and we can go here to MTG Arena, click Done, and you can see here I've been exploring a lot of Niv Mizzet. I'm really into the deck. I think it's very strong. I'm just trying to figure it out right now. So here, you can see Explore is at 95%, right? So what if we shift that to Spiral, right? So Spiral, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So how much was that? It was 95% chance to cast Spiral on Curve. Export, boop, and then we just Control and then V. Now look at Spiral. You see how it's a little less? It's harder to balance that. And like, we want to keep all of our other cards very castable, right? Like, it's really important to get Niv Mizzet down too. So if we skew this to be more like green, more blue and stuff, it's going to be even harder to cast Niv Mizzet, because then we're going to lose some black sources. Like, there's always a push and pull with these types of lists. So that's why we're running Spiral or Explore over Spiral right now. Fine. So other points of interest, we've got Teferi to kind of lock down the counter spells as well. Like, we just keep it's basically tap out control. You just keep producing threats and whatnot, and I feel like Clarion's definitely the selling point versus Goblins. Now you can take this another direction and go standard with it, and this actually worked out pretty well. You just have to shift the lands around a little bit to be more shock landy, and a couple temples here and there. And then I also ended up dropping the Jengatha so that I could include casualties for stuff like Sultai Ramp with Nissas, mainly to counteract Nissa on the first go. Now, casualties is a bit harder to cast. I think it's something like a 70 or 80% chance. But like, at that point in the game with Ramp and fixing and stuff, it's not terrible. And then I've upped the Teferi's up to 3 and D-Sparks for Nissas mainly. I don't have the sideboard for the standard deck yet, but I think that it might be better in standard in some regards, just because the power level is slightly lower than historic, you know? The goblins, though, like make Clarion more worth. And while this does shut down Saktos pretty well, I'm not sure how good it is in standard. I'd have to really take a look at the meta and whatnot to really lock that down. So getting back to this list, there's also a Yorion variant that I've been working on as well, which uses like Prince Charming and more blink effects like Knights and Atris and Hostage Takers. And this list is a ton of fun, but it's very inconsistent thus far. I haven't had a lot of testing with it, but Niv Mizzet, as you can read here, when it enters the battlefield, so that's an enters the battlefield effect. So we get value off of Yorion, which is also why I'm running 2 Yorion's main deck. That can also be grabbed off of Niv Mizzet itself. So you just have infinite cards, man, with this deck. And with an 80 card pile list, you can sit there and chuck whatever you don't want, Elspeth it later. You've got so many options with that list as well. And if you guys are interested in any of these lists, just drop by my stream. I'll export them, the ones that you want, whatever. But I'm probably just going to be exporting this one for the deck guide because it's sort of what we're rolling into right now. So good matchups, bad matchups. I'd say that we have a pretty good matchup against Field of the Dead, aside from Ulamog. That guy is insane, and I think in the sideboard we should have an answer for them. Like we can unmoored ego the Ulamog, and that helps. But I think potentially instead of Veto, maybe we drop a Veto, drop something else for D-Sparks. Because D-Spark, like, yeah, they can, like, if they get Ulamog out, and they get the effect, it hurts us when they exile 2 things, but we can sometimes recover from that. What we can't recover from is Ulamog swinging in and exiling 20 cards off of our library. We like lose on the spot. So I would say having some answers to that would be good, since none of our board wipes clear it. There's no extinction events or any of that stuff. So like being able to exile that card would be nice. So some D-Sparks main deck potentially, or at least in the sideboard, solves that issue, I would say. I would say at least 2 D-Sparks in the side. Maybe 1 in the main, but it's just super dead against red for the most part, aside from like Muxus. But if they cast Muxus, the game's probably over anyways. I don't know. It's tough. So what other matchups? We've got Field of the Dead, which is favored. As long as they don't have Ulamog. If they do, we should have sideboard options for that. We've got Tamir Rek, which is a bit rough, but like we kind of have a lot of answers, like pulses, Assassin's Trophies for the Wilderness. Yeah, we ramp them with the Assassin's Trophy, but the pulse can be pretty clutch. Teferi is also pretty good against that. And then we've got Ashiok as well. Ashiok's just really nice pressure. And we've got a lot of hand refill, so it's not like we're running out of gas. Like, if they go Expansion Explosion to our face, a lot of the times you'll face this down as a control list. You tap out a little bit, boom, Expansion hits you, ding, and then they draw like, 6 or 7 cards, and then you're like, oh man, I can't keep up with that. You just slam Niv Mizzet since they tapped out for Expansion Explosion, and then you simply refill your hand and try to get there, and hopefully they didn't draw another Expansion Explosion, and then you unmoored ego that second game. So we have a good sideboard there. Against Golos, we also have Knight of Autumn. Mono red, I think we're good against because we have Clarions. Sometimes we can steal game 1 just by clearing the board a few times and then going over the top. They can still combo off like Elf Ball used to. It's still pretty rough. What else is there? Like Gruul Historic has lost a lot of steam because of Emissary like getting banned. So I would say that we have a pretty good chance against that list, especially since we can answer the Embercleave with a few different cards. And we put a lot of pressure on the table. The 6/6 is pretty hard to deal with since Colossus isn't really a card anymore, at least from what I've seen. So that matchup's pretty good, I think. I think we can go to a list to kind of figure out which other historic decks are popular right now. What else is big? Like Kethis. Kethis we do okay because we can interrupt them a bit. Game 1 we're a little weak, but we've got a lot of good sideboard cards such as like Unmoored Ego, everything else, so that's fine. I think we're pretty favored against Kethis overall. As long as they don't combo off on like turn 4 or 5, we're okay. Because we've got like a lot of sideboard tech against that. We've got like 2 Knights, which help a little bit. Vetoes, Soul Guide Lanterns, Graph Diggers. Like we just trim some of our top endy stuff in our board wipes. for that. Like Solar Blaze isn't going to do it against Diligent, right? Like Clarion's awesome because that clears their combo for the most part, like almost all the way through. Emery, I think, is a 1/4. He might be a 1/3 though. He is a 1/2 actually. Wow, yeah, so he gets cleaned out by Clarion as well. So keep Clarions in, Solar Blazes out for more sideboard cards, probably the Garruk out for more sideboard cards, stuff like that. So there's that. What else? Like mono white, like aggro in general, we're pretty favored because we run so many board wipes. We just need like exile effects basically. So if you're struggling with cards that are indestructible, just consider exiling stuff instead. There's also the consideration to drop like 1 land here for Field of the Dead. I don't hate the option, but I think it cripples the mana base a lot, so I wasn't a fan of it after thinking about it for like an hour. Like we just stood around brewing this, me and the stream, so we went through a lot of variations, and this one's one of the better ones, I think. So that pretty much covers the matchups for the most part. Yep. And we'll be getting into some gameplay here pretty shortly. And the sideboard options, we kind of went through that as we did the matchups. Your vetoes are for like control, Bant Ramp, sometimes with against like Field of the Dead decks, so you can stop Nissa or so you can stop Eugene. And then D-Spark, like I think we need 2 of these for Ulamog, or like we have to unmoor to Ulamog or something. Like it's weird, man. And we might not need this Solar Blaze, but if aggro continues to be a problem like Gobos, it's pretty good. Because even if we like explore into Solar Blaze, usually that's fast enough compared to just Clarion on 3. So as long as we can board wipe on 3 against that deck at least once or twice, we're pretty good. And we can find other board wipes as well. So, all right, let's jump into the gameplay then. Hopefully this was helpful. From I'm going to slam the ladder with this deck because I believe in it to I'm going to test a different deck. So those are the 2 modes I usually have, brew and push. And right now we're in brew mode, so we don't care about winning or losing. We're just trying to see if we can get the list to run a little bit better and how viable it is. This looks okay. It's a little slow though. If we're up against aggro, I should have checked a little closer for companions, if they had a companion or not. So checked for that. That was a loose keep. Because if they had shown like Yorion or something, I might have been a little hesitant to keep, but we'll see how this hand shapes up. We can explore with the Shockland here as well. So we're in pretty good shape there. This smells like Bant Field or you white control, and they're just kind of theming around. We have a lot of board wipes, but I don't think that's going to help us unless they're on Bant Jolriel, or however you pronounce that character's name. That could be decent for us. When are we playing Standard? I'm not sure. Once the hype dies down from Historic. I like Historic a lot more right now because Standard feels like just a... Oh boy. Oh boy. Alright, so we got Spicy Spirits. This gets countered or this gets countered. This forces them to commit more to the board, whether that's flashing in dudes or just countering me. Okay. Standard just feels like it's Temur Reclamation. And Bant Ramp. Whereas Historic has at least like 4 decks. They might just let this go through and then flash in another creature end of turn, which would be pretty unfortunate for me. I don't really do too well with that. Lofty Denial, okay. And this is why I wanted Solar Blaze up and Assassin's Trophy down. Had this been Assassin's Trophy, not in the best of shape, right? Because like right now they're still like, boom, I counter, I counter, I counter, I counter. So we're gonna try to Solar Blaze. Hopefully just running them dry of counter spells. Mischievous Chimera, okay. Alright. So that happened. Okay. A pretty big whiff, honestly. That's a lot of lands, dude. Holy moly. Holy moly, dude. We did get to cast Niv Mizzet right on curve, which is cool. What are we getting in Historic right now for this deck, anyway? Could we just be playing this in Standard? Check lands? Yeah, just the lands, right? We want to make them swing into Teferi. Respect that. I think they're just playing Imperial Eagle again. Okay, that's fine. Are you going to sacrifice? Wait. Don't you dare. What's this do? Oh, I see. So they get to deal with Teferi, which is fine. And they swing at Teferi. So what we can do here is, so what's cool about this, right, is we go like this, okay? We swing this Niv Mizzet in for 6, right? So check this out, okay? We gain 6, and then we Clarion again because we're the best in the world, all right? Why? We're just the best, okay? And now we have another Niv Mizzet to fill our hand up again. Nice. Right? Is it not nice? Do-do-do-do! How come they have 3 lands? They've just been getting boned, man. Like a graveyard, alright? Oh, we get Maelstrom Pulse. Pulse is okay. Yeah. See ya. Ooh. So hopefully that kind of showcased a bit of what the deck can do against aggro. Now, you White Flyers is sort of... It's not super meta. It's kind of a common deck in Historic. And you also have to consider that this deck can be molded for Historic and Standard. So this is kind of a very loose sideboard guide to kind of give you something to work with. Not my thing is the most concrete ever. I'm still testing it. So that's something to consider with this deck guide in particular. Usually I have it more flushed out. I was really excited about this list and I wanted some sort of a guide to put up on Aether Hub so people can click through and kind of figure out what the deck is about. So I think that's really important. I'll be doing some more work with the deck going forward, and I do something called Epic Match of the Week, which kind of showcases a best of 3 scenario most of the time with a deck where it's a really close game. So I'm going to try to do that and get it ready for next week for this deck, whether that's Historic or Traditional Standard. I'm going to try to flush out the sideboard. That's what's on the next, what's on the menu next for the deck. So hopefully that kind of helps you find a direction to go in, and you know what direction I'm going in, so you know what to look forward to. And that being said, there'll be an end panel coming up soon where you can click to subscribe, and there'll also be like a video for like, you know, something else you might want to check out. I make a new YouTube video every single day. It releases at 2 p.m. CST. And I also stream from 2 p.m. CST until 8. So if you want to drop by the stream and talk, you can do that. If something caught your eye in the video, you have some suggestions, whatever it may be, you can drop by the stream or drop comments below. Love that stuff. So with that being said, I will catch you guys for the next video, and thank you for checking out this one.